welcome Carl Palmer.
Hello.
Good to see you. Thanks
Good
for coming in.
You. No,
as always, Carl's brought some songs in he'd like to play, which are influential to him. We'll start with, I guess, the question you've probably been asked the most, but it is still fascinating. What led you to the drums in the first place?
Well, I took up the violin originally, and I found it sounded better when I banged it. So that kind of led me to a drum set.
Many parents would believe that's the same, I think. Absolutely.
My grandfather was a drummer. His brother was a violin player, so there's music in the family. Their mother was a classical guitarist, and it goes on from there. But basically, I was attracted to playing drums. I think the biggest influence would have been a film that came out at the time in 1961. It was called Drum Crazy. That was the title here in America. It was called The Gene Krupa Story.
Yes.
And it was such a fantastic film.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I walked out to the cinema, and I said to my dad, you know, that's what I'd like to do. And, you know, I've walked down that path ever since. It's just fantastic. It's just one of those things. I think you have to realise that when you're really young, at that period, you know, certain things can make such a big impression upon you. Like today, it's difficult because there's so many different influences.
Yeah.
But this thing just was stamped on my brain, and I couldn't get it up. And that was
how old were you?
11. Actually, I was about 10 and a half. I started playing when I was 11.
All right. And straight into lessons? Or did you just experiment for a while?
I'm always experimenting. Yes, because of the musical history of the family, my grandfather taught at the Royal Academy here. Yeah. It was like lessons from day one, really. Yeah. They gave me a snare drum, and I sort of messed about with that for a little bit. It was made by a company called Chad Valley. It was a full-size snare drum, but plastic.
Yes.
So, you know, cheap and nasty, really.
Chad Valley started the career of many a musician, I think, with their fantastic range of guitars and other things.
It came with one of those flexi discs that you put on.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, this is how you play a brush rhythm. This is how you... And it was rubbish, really. It was a good drummer on there called Eric Delaney, who I later met in life. And anyway, I put it on, and I got it down. Within about a month, I could play everything that was on there. It was knockoff. I was naturally rhythmically inclined, you know, and that was it, done. So they got me a teacher, and I had about 5 teachers in my life.
Okay.
Overall, from right up till I was about 27, I still having lessons.
Okay.
I stopped now.
Well, you say that, some drummers go back to lessons midlife, kind of.
Well,
you know,
I mean, I still watch DVDs of other drummers, and I do all that. I keep up to date with what, you know, if somebody's got a trick, then I'll learn it and try and better it. Or, you know, everything I play has been nicked, same as everyone else, really. I just play it better.
We love that modesty.
Oh, I got it from Rick.
Oh, it's that bad, is it? We've got, as I say, some songs to pick. We're going to start off with a Beatles track, Ticket to Ride. What led you to this?
I never got to see them live.
Oh, really?
I never got to see them live. The day they were playing at the local ballroom close to my house, I had to play a gig that night. But I did see their equipment being loaded in. It was fantastic. It was the Handsworth Wood Ballroom, the Ballroom Handsworth Wood. And it belonged to a woman called Mrs. Regan, and I couldn't get up to see them, but I saw the stuff being taken in, and I was so impressed, because the Beatles, they were so big, you know, and just enormous at the time. And this particular track just had one of the great drum rhythms on it. That actually, I've nicked that, and I've put that into an Asia song, which we've just recorded, believe it or not. I just loved the band. At the time, I just, you know, and I still do, the songs that will live on forever. And Ringo, you know, didn't become really a big friend, but he's got a drum set of mine. And I've spoken to Zach on many occasions, and I like that whole environment. I just thought they were a great writing team, Lennon and McCartney.
How long, then, from you were 10 and a half, 11, when you decided that was going to be your chosen career, how long did you turn pro straight away from finishing school?
Yeah, I left school on the Friday, and I left home on the Sunday. I was 15. And
that bad, huh?
Yeah, and what happened was I was offered a job by a soul singer called Chris Farlow, who had a hit single called Out of Time, written by Mick Jagger, Keith Richards. And he'd seen me play about a year before that at Birmingham Town Hall, and he'd asked me to join his Thunderbirds. And I was deeply flattered. It was Albert Lee on guitar, lots of great players. Thing was, the band I was in was going on a programme called Thank Your Lucky Stars with Brian Matthews. And I figured I'd made it, you see. Obviously, it all went pear-shaped, you know. It was an absolute disaster, carnage everywhere. The group broke up 2 weeks later. And there was I standing on one leg, enjoying it, thinking, well, that was my 5 minutes of fame. So I promptly got on the phone to Mr. Farlow and said, do you remember me? And he said, of course I do. I said, I'm leaving school in a couple of months, and I'd like to see if I could come down to London and play. He said, yeah, come down and have an audition. So I told him when I was leaving. He sent his roadie down in one of those transit vans, double wheels at the back. I was highly impressed. Dark windows. You can imagine, I'm 15. I think, yes, And I leave on the Friday, school, leave home on the Sunday. We get down here, and he's got a place for me to stay. He lived in this huge tenement house in Islington, Offord Road. I remember it well. 159. He's not there anymore, so I can say the number. And he gave me this basement apartment to live in for 2 or 3 days, and I paid his mum some rent, and stuff. And I didn't do the audition until the following Wednesday, and it was at a place called the Bag of Nails, Kingley Street. And of course, I'd learned every tune he'd ever played. I was just, and I got there, and he made me go through the whole audition and finished. And he said, "You've got the job." Oh, God Almighty, thanks for that. But a great man, and I do thank him, because without him, I wouldn't have got here, in the first place.
Fantastic. How did you get from there to touring? With one of the great, I think, myths in your career is that you played on the Arthur Brown records. You didn't. You toured with the Arthur Brown band, didn't you?
Yes. What happened there was I was with Chris Farlow for about 2.5 years. I was nearly 18, and I got a call from the management of the Crazy World of Arthur Brown, Chris Stamp, I think there was a chap at the time, and Kit Lambert, and they said, would I play on some sessions or do some work like that? Well, I never played sessions.
I was going to say, you weren't known as a session drummer, really, were you?
No, because we had this thing in my family that it'd be better to... Sessions are great, but the minute they know you're a hired gun, you're going to be hired forever. Yeah. So you've got to keep yourself a little, exclusive if you can. So I said, all right, I'll do it. I'm not, not too much, though. You don't have to use my name. Please don't put it anywhere. And I went along and played, and I forget what we recorded at the time. On the track Fire, for example, I'm the God of Hellfire, that was recorded, as far as I know, about 4 times. There was people like John Eisman, a chap called Marshall, the original drummer, Dracian Theka, and I did a recording of it. On the album, I don't know who's on that, and I think if I was to say if it was anyone, it possibly is the original drummer. On the album, there's other drummers listed. But what happened was, they went to America, they lost it with the original guy, and they said to me, called me up and said, look, some of the material, do you want to fly over to Los Angeles? When you're 18 and someone says fly over to Los Angeles, you don't turn them down, do you? Not the stories I was hearing at the time. I just had to get there, Places to go, people to make, money to make. That's how I looked at that.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I said to Chris Farlow, do you mind if I take a sabbatical?
Oh, so it's very amicable then.
And he said, yes, he said, if you don't like it, come back. He said, but you've got to find a drummer before you leave. So I said, fine, I'll do that. And the drummer that replaced me was John Bonham, because he was a big friend from Birmingham. I called up John. He said, listen, do you want to get down here and do this? He said, yeah. He came down. I went off with Arthur Brown. It was successful. And then about a year later, I met him in America at some hotel. And Led Zeppelin had formed, and and I was on the way down with Arthur, because Arthur had gone to some commune on Long Island, and Led Zeppelin were playing the Fillmore and just breaking all box office records. So it was hello.
Let's take another of the songs that you picked here from around about that time. You've Spencer Davis Group, Keep On Running, great song. What led you to that?
In Birmingham, at the time when that came out, there was a couple of blues groups. There's one called the Cock-a-Hoop, and a band called the King Bees that I was in. But the big band in the town, really, before the move and before any of that happened, was the Spencer Davis Group. And I was fortunate enough to play, though he probably doesn't know it, but I played with Steve Winwood once when I was about 12 at a place called the Chapel Tavern, which was a pub. There used to be jam sessions on a Saturday morning, and he was playing piano at the time. And I didn't realise that he went on to be in the Spencer Davis Group, and then I picked up on it, and then this single came out, and it just always stuck with me, because I think it was the first time I ever heard fuzz guitar. Yeah. And the first time I ever saw a guy in a suede jean jacket, which I thought was incredibly decadent at the time. And I'm a Steve Winwood fan anyway.
The first ELP album was a runaway success and has stood the test of time. It's a classic album as well. Did that was it an easy record to make, first of all? Did everything fall into place quite easily?
Well, I think we were short of material. That's what I recall.
Really?
Yes. Because it was on vinyl at the time. I know I don't look that old. But if you were to flip it over, this second side had like 3/4 of it was like church organ, no singing, no drums. No.
You got 46 minutes, haven't you? I mean, you feel that.
So it was weird. But there were a couple of classic pieces on there, like Knife Edge and Lucky Man, Barbarian, which I still play today, actually, with my band, Barbarian. We didn't have enough material, I recall that. And I remember Greg saying he had Lucky Man, do you want to try this? And we recorded that with the guitar and drums, and Keith put the Moog synthesizer on later, and that became a legendary sort of solo and thing. It happened very quickly. I think it was recorded in 2 weeks.
Blimey, really?
We didn't have that much material, so it was quick anyway. And he went off to I don't know where it was, the Albert Hall, and recorded his organ. And that was it, really. And for some unknown reason, it took off. Yeah, it flew out the box, that one. I had no idea why. Lucky Man was a hit, And of course, and then this strange parallel started. They started calling us a progressive rock band. And I thought, well, maybe we are progressive, but, Lucky Man isn't progressive.
No, that's right.
But that's getting on the airways. People play that. Once they play that, they realise there's a lot more depth musically to the album.
It's like I said, I wonder whether it was the synth solo at the end, just because that was such a different sound maybe at the time.
Technology we embraced at the time, that's for sure, and that definitely helped, yeah. No, I'm very proud of that album.
When you came, there was lots through ELP, and it was an enormously successful band. When you're in the middle of that storm, because, it was so huge, do you feel it, or does it just feel like you're going to work every day?
Something, when it's the same as Asia, at the very beginning of Asia, when we had that #1 for 9 weeks. When you're in the middle of something that's that big, or in the middle of something like ELP, which takes off that quickly, you're so busy watching everything that's going on and doing what you have to do to keep it moving. You don't actually enjoy it. You only enjoy it years later when it's all over.
Yeah.
There's just no way of dealing with it when you're in it. And when I say deal, you can deal with it, but you can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's no enjoyment there at all. Basically, your work, but you're very happy. You're being received. You're being accepted well. Around the world globally. So it's a case of when Emerson, Lake and Palmer broke up the first time. It was only then I sat back and went, wow, what a body of work that is.
Yeah.
Same with Asia, So you don't really enjoy it when it's going on. I think the touring at the time with the LP was really good. And I have some great moments there. And, I had a great time. I had a great time overall. It was good. It was good.
Well, we'll take an ELP track. We asked you to pick one. You picked Jerusalem.
Yes.
But why?
I would say, why? Number one, we never played it on stage. It was always a gripe of mine. I always thought it should be...
Oh, you wanted to?
Yes, I thought it should be a single. This was banned. This shows you how old this is. It was banned by the BBC. And it's got a little story about it. It was banned by the BBC. They took it up to the board. You remember years ago when everything had to be vetted. So they took it into the room, and the 4 suits were behind the desk. They put it on, and they said, blasphemy. No, I can't. Blasphemy. Well, we can't do that. It's Jerusalem. Okay? Gone. So I think we played it on stage a couple of times in Germany, and that was the end of that. The version, Jerusalem, that we recorded, I thought was superb, and it just epitomises the group, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Let's take another of the tracks that has a strong drumming influence. We'll go with Buddy Rich here. You talked about the Gene Krupa story, or that was the American title of the film that picked you when you were about 10 and a half. Buddy Rich as well, Jumping at the Woodside. This is another one I think that was filmed, wasn't it? Another from the film.
I'm not too sure about that. I was given the recording.
It was certainly on the recording.
Yeah, by a teacher of mine said, you should listen to this. He was, I'll tell you what I used to do. When I was about 13, I used to travel down to London to have a drum lesson every Saturday and have to then travel back.
From Birmingham?
Yes, because by the time I was 13, I'd outgrown everybody in my town.
Yeah.
There's some good players there, but I moved very fast when I was young. And of course now the improvement's a lot slower. The older you get, you don't, because, things get harder and stuff. Anyway, this American teacher that I had here in Denman Street, the old Boozy and Hawks just across the road here, it was called Bruce Gaylor. And I used to tell him all the drum solos I liked and this and that. He said, no, you should listen to this and then talk to me. Of course, I listened to it. I think basically I had an album he wanted called Buddy Rich Sings Tony Mercer.
Oh, right.
So I gave him this album and he said, I'll give you this. Just that one track, that's all you need to hear. You play it all, but that's the one. I put it on. And I thought, well, I missed this guy. Where was he? Who was it? Come out, you know. And that was it. Yeah, and it was, it's on my iPod today.
How long did it take you to learn to play it?
I've never copied it. Okay. I've only ever nicked sort of various things from it, yeah. It's not one of those solos you would try and copy, really. But it's just beautifully done. You know, it sounds dated now. I mean, Iron Up, and he would do if he was here, but good. Very good.
Tell us about the whole Asia experience, because, again, it was a band that seemed to have a very difficult start before you got there, because I know Rick was involved with an early incarnation of it, and there are various bits and pieces of it. But when it got together finally, it just seemed to click.
Yes.
Did it feel like that?
Yeah, it was one of those instant, you know, I didn't want to be in a four-piece band. But,
well, yeah, you said you were.
But this one, for some unknown reason, just worked. Yeah. The four people are really compatible. There's no doubt about that. You know, there's something there. We had problems at the very beginning, getting it organised. Once we were up and running and we were recording, we were using Mike Stone was a producer who passed away. We were on a flow. You know, it was corporate rock, let's be honest. It was your arena rock, you know, verse, chorus, middle eight, chorus.
But you wanted to do it. This wasn't a boy band.
That's what it was, yeah. And there was a little bit of prog on there, on that first album, with tracks like Wildest Dreams and Time Again. So there's a beautiful balance. Actually, the first Asia album is probably the most balanced album I've ever made from the point of view of commerciality and depth in music. And we worked on that album for quite a while, about 6 months. And it came out, and it was at the time of Geffen Records and MTV, so we had a lot of help with MTV. Godley and Cream were making videos for us. It was all there. Timing, it's, you know what it's like in this business. If you get your timing right, you can get it. That's what she said to me last night. But you know, you can get places, and you can go places, and we did, and it all happened. It was add water and mix. Does what it says on the packet. You know, one of those. You'd
come out of ELP, and as you say, you'd had an opportunity, possibly at that time, to stand back and go, "Whoa, that was quite good."
I did actually for 3 years.
But when you went back into this, it was bigger again. 10 million albums or whatever. You had, and all the MTV stuff. I mean, MTV, like,
it was the beginning, if you remember.
That's right. Yeah,
81.
They loved you to pieces. Did you find that uncomfortable, or did you enjoy it?
Oh no, I love to be loved.
Oh, okay.
beat me.
You're a proper drummer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, beat me. Well, look, we didn't know it was going to be that big.
No, clearly.
We were lucky with Geffen. David Geffen was an amazing guy. I learnt a lot from him. The whole MTV thing was right there. We were on the cutting edge as far as videos were concerned. Godley and Cream, can't knock them, right on it.
They were the hottest.
And we had the material. And we had what a lot of bands didn't have. We had some pedigree. Because Steve Howe had come from Yes. Yep. I'd come from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. John Wetton had been in numerous bands, you know, as a backing musician, but had been in them. And Jeff Downs had Video Killed the Radio Star, which was a big track. Was the first video ever played on MTV.
Yeah.
And as I say, John had been with King Crimson, he'd been with Roxy Music, he'd been, you know, tons. So it was there. And it was just the right blend at the right time.
Now you've got a new album, which we're going to hear in April. It's called Phoenix. Tell us about the differences to writing and recording now from that first album. Is it still an enjoyable process, first of all? I guess it is.
It is. It's very quick these days, you know.
Oh, is it?
I find it, yeah, especially if you start, you know, if you make a mistake on any instrument, even in the vocal, but the atmosphere is there, you can correct it.
Yeah.
I mean, with Pro Tools, you can do whatever you want to do. It's a great program, Pro Tools. People can overuse it. I think you have to realise that if there's a way of... It's like this. Sometimes you can record something and it sounds right, but it doesn't sound as good as the one was the rougher version. There seems to be an element in there.
Yeah.
To try and recapture that is very difficult. Well, that first version that you recorded can now be sorted out. With any problems that it did have, can now be removed or corrected, whether it be the drums or whether it be the tuning, whatever. So now we go, yes, that one. Before you'd have to say, it's a shame, just the end. You have to do it. We'd out with a razor blade years ago, right, and cut it up. It's not like that anymore. So it's quicker, it's more enthusing in general, and for me, I find it rewarding. I don't care if people pick up an album and say to me, oh yes, but it's been Pro Tools, every note, every beat is right. Why not?
Absolutely.
Why not? You don't go in and have heart surgery and say, well, if you can't join the left side, just budge it a little bit. You want it exact. Why not? You know.
Sorry, sir. Your kidney failure first take was great.
Yeah.
But
could you do it again? You know.
You said the first Asia album you felt was the most balanced album. What's changed in the writing of the albums now? What's the overall feel are you trying to achieve with the Asia album?
I think the overall feel this time is obviously a bit more adult. It's not as proggy.
Yeah.
It's incredibly tuneful.
Still songs then. So
incredibly tuneful. That's for sure. Obviously, John Wetton had a big scare last year, and that's reflected in his lyrics and things, which is great. You know, it's all there. It's extremely heartfelt, the album. That's for sure. There's some great playing on it. But it's simplified, you know. It's not look how many notes we can play, though we all still do that if we need to. This is slightly different, this album, and I think people might even say it's slightly somber in places, but I can actually live with that because I feel comfortable with it. I don't know whether it's a passing of time or it's just the situation in general or just the fact that we have so much material to choose from as the original Asia that this is just part of a collage of work, you know. There's a couple of what I would consider to be really commercial tracks on there. You know, there's no doubt. Whether or not they would mean anything in this country, I don't know, but I know in America they would. I think a good song's a good song wherever it's played. So I think the people that are the similar age to ourselves, similar demographic, I think they'll see a different side of Asia, and I think that's what it is really, you know. It's not as experimental as what people will think it should have been. I've got a feeling a lot of people think, we should have, but it's not. That's really not what we're all about, to be honest with you.
And we'd like you, can you pick a track from Phoenix as well, because it's something that we'd like to play, obviously. Is there a track on there that you think says this is what the album's about, or that is most appropriate?
I would say, for me, Extraordinary Life.
And why?
I think if you look at what the band's been through and what we're doing now, I think this has such an up approach and a positive approach. I think it really just says that we're all having fun, and this is great still to be doing this. And bearing in mind where John Wetton's been and come back, it's invigorating.
Carl, you've got a very loyal and loving fan base.